What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be looking at Barabbas and an analysis of the biblical texts about Barabbas. Okay, who is Barabbas? I'll just say these are the four texts where you will find about Barabbas, and he's basically the guy that Christ was crucified instead of. This is a quick summary of Matthew, which is basically just a summary of, they're all the exact same. And at that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Whom do you want me to release you to, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Christ? They said, Barabbas, release Barabbas. Pilate said to them, what then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? They said, let him be crucified. Then he released Barabbas to them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Okay, so this is just the story of Barabbas, plain and simple. Jesus or Barabbas, they said, who do you want me to crucify? They all said, crucify Christ, release Barabbas. And so Pilate reluctantly went to crucify Christ. So what can we take from this? Barabbas. What does Barabbas mean? Bar means son and Abba means father. So a literal translation of Barabbas is son of the father. Oh, guys, watch. Barabbas is son of the father. Christ is son of the father. So there's two sons of the father. And who are they going to choose to be released? Obviously the criminal. And who to be persecuted or crucified for some reason? The son of the father, the true son of the father, not this fake son of the father. Boom. How do the four Gospels portray Barabbas? Mark and Luke as a murderer. Mark and Luke also as an insurrectionist, which is like a fake messianic, and then John as a robber. Matthew just doesn't call him anything; he just calls him a notorious prisoner. So we got the typologies. So this is obviously a typology or just a symbolism of fallen humanity. How fallen humanity will choose sin over God basically every single time because of just because of their nature. Or because of fallen humanity, because why on earth would they choose to release Barabbas and to crucify Christ? That makes no sense. Guilty, and also a type of every sinner. So Barabbas is basically a type of every sinner, because I am Barabbas. I should have been crucified in his place, but for some reason he was crucified instead of me. Okay, I should have been crucified because I should pay for my own punishment, but instead he paid for my punishment. Then we have choice. Jesus versus Barabbas, a violent rebel. People chose the political messianic type, they call him an insurrectionist, seeking earthly liberation, and Israel rejects the suffering servant. So choice is actually cool. So, they chose Barabbas. Barabbas actually got freedom, but it's an earthly freedom. Christ was offering eternal liberation, not earthly temporal liberation. But of course, their choice was an earthly liberation. Yeah, so you have the theme of earthly versus eternal liberation, and also Israel's rejection of Christ. Anyway, in Isaiah 53, it was even prophesied that he will whatever. Passover, celebrated annually. A lamb was sacrificed in the temple. Jesus is arrested during the Passover week, so it is literally the Passover week. Passover lamb had to have been spotless. Lamb's blood saved Israel from death and the bones not to be broken. So Christ fulfills all of this. He is the Passover lamb because he was spotless. He was arrested during the Passover week. Christ's blood saves his people from death, and also the bones of the Passover lamb were not to be broken, and Christ's bones were not broken. That's in John. Barabbas is actually a type of an antichrist because he is a false messianic figure, and people actually will choose the antichrist over the true Christ by means of liberation through earthly means. So as Barabbas was chosen over the Christ, so will the antichrist be in certain things. Okay, now we have the scapegoat, which is the coolest one in my opinion. Day of Atonement was Yom Kippur, and on this day, 2 goats were chosen. 1 goat for the Lord and a scapegoat. The goat for the Lord was sacrificed, the blood sprinkled in the holiest of holies, and he makes atonement for the people's sin. With the scapegoat, the priest lays hands on its head, confessing all the sins of Israel on the scapegoat, and then the sins are transferred onto the goat, and the goat is led into the wilderness. All of that is in Leviticus 16, verse 20 to 21. You can read it. And this is literally a one-for-one, word-for-word prophecy, foreshadow of Barabbas. Because, think about it. There's 2 goats, 2 people for crucifixion. Okay, one is spotless, and the other has sin. They put their sin, they sacrifice the one that is sinless, and then they release the sinful one. But then also, as I showed in my Abraham and Isaac video, Christ is literally in every single story. Christ is basically everywhere. So in a sense, Christ is the goat for the Lord, but Christ is also the scapegoat, because the sins are actually transferred onto Christ. They're not transferred onto Barabbas, okay, but they're transferred onto Christ. But sinless Barabbas is running into the wilderness, sinless if he asks for forgiveness. So this Yom Kippur, you read Leviticus 16, verse 20 to 21. It's very cool prophecy of Christ and Barabbas, of the criminal. How the criminal was led into the wilderness. He was escaped, or he is not escaped because they released him. So he was chosen to be led into the wilderness. And Christ actually took, and he made atonement for people's sin. He is the ultimate atonement for people's sins. The same way the goat in the day of Yom Kippur, Christ is the goat, and Christ is also the scapegoat. It's very cool. And last one is Hebrews 13, 11 to 12. For the bodies of those animals whose blood is brought into the holy place are burned outside the camp. So Jesus also suffered outside the gate in order to sanctify the people through his own blood. So this actually ties the idea of the scapegoat, because he was the one who suffered outside the gate, and he sanctified the people through his own blood. So yeah, these are the things I got so far about Barabbas. As I said, he basically had the same name. He was the same, but is about like what's inside, like your moral worth inside. They had the exact same name, son of the Father, but one was sinless and one was sinful. Choice type of every sinner, because every sinner is Barabbas, because every sinner should be crucified, but they're not because of you know what. Christ versus violent people, Israel's rejection, Passover lamb, Antichrist, scapegoat, and Hebrews 13. So thank you, man, so much for watching, and yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.